Welcome back, everybody, to the 2018 Portland Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships. My name is Duiha, and joining me at the desk right now is, of course, Hayden McTavish. And, well, we are getting ready to get started with the next round. Players are getting seated right after lunch. I've lost track of what round it even is.
I think we're round 5
Round
now.
5? And I believe there's 2 more rounds to follow after this, too, so there's still a lot more action to come here at the 2018 Video Game Regional Championships. The next match is going to be an exciting one because, at this point, players are so close to making it to the top cut. And, you want to just win as many as you possibly can. You don't want to fall to resistance at all to determine if you make the top cut.
Yeah, absolutely. I think winning this round is incredibly helpful for players, as every round, but especially because just sort of setting up that, okay, by round 6, I'm just playing for positioning.
Yeah, yeah. And, just getting one step closer, and when you think to yourself, I'm just one win away from making it to the top cut, that's pretty nice. And actually, so if you win here, you move to 5-0 or X-1 or whatever, like 4-1. And at that point, one more, secure your spot in top cut. One loss, you have to play another round, and you have to take it absolutely seriously, and you can't, you don't want to lose that one either.
Yeah,
right?
And that's always dangerous because right after you lose is sometimes when you're most liable to tilt. And so being really close is sometimes a really dangerous spot to be in. Like, it's very easy to start out 4-0 or 5-0 and then lose 2 in a row.
Oh, yeah, and that's always heartbreaking in a tournament setting when you're so close. You win 5 in a row, you start off 5-0, and then you're just like, oh, no, I just lost 2 in a row. I whiffed cut by, opponents' win percentage, and you're just... you don't have the chance to compete for more championship points and those cash prizes.
Yeah, but I think I am very excited for the specific matchup we have here.
Yep.
We talked. You missed our analysis, but we talked about not seeing any Snorlax yet. And we're about to see a whole lot of Snorlax.
I was hungry like a Snorlax, so I went out and I got some food. We are going to be broadcasting Quinn Johnston versus River Davis, who was your smart money to take the whole championship home. He won the Vancouver Regional Championships in 2017. So maybe the Pacific Northwest is where he functions the best.
Yeah, maybe. I think you'll sort of see as we get into the match that his team now is very, very similar to the one he had at Regionals. Just that whole sort of premise of the Snorlax and the Persian, and he's still bringing Persian now, not necessarily because he thinks it's the best Pokemon in the format by any means, but because it's something he's comfortable with and something he can play well. And so I've had a practice match or 2 with him over the course of the season, and he's always really impressed me with the way he plays. So I think if he's on point today, he definitely has the potential to even go undefeated.
He seems to be pretty on point right now. He is 4-0. His opponent, Quinn Johnston, also hailing from the Pacific Northwest, hasn't had too many strong accomplishments under his belt here in the Masters Division, but, he's 4-0, and when you get to this point, if you're both 4-0, you kind of had to show a lot more respect to your opponent because they've already made it 4-0 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is pretty much guaranteed to be a really interesting match because of the 2 people being at 4-0. I think Quinn Johnston is someone I've played a couple times in tournaments as well, and he's
because you're all from the Pacific Northwest,
yeah.
right?
And he's been a pretty fun person to play. We've had some pretty close matches. The last one we had was right down to the wire, so I think it'll be fun to see how he sort of adapts to River's very control-based playstyle.
Yeah, I mean, you know River's team pretty well because you played against him with it, right? And it's kind of a grind it out. Trying to stall out your opponent, let them run out of the resources, not allow them to do that much damage to you while, you pretty much control the field.
Yeah, I think it's really terrifying because if you don't have exactly the right things to sort of control Snorlax, which is already really hard to do, then there's just not much you can do against clever positioning. I think Quinn probably has some tricks up his sleeve that he'll be able to pull out here, but I think it's just very easy to sort of snowball based off of Snorlax just being a really strong Pokemon to begin with.
And now into team preview between Quinn Johnston and River Davis here. Quinn going to be running the Tapu Koko, Porygon 2, Charizard, the Snorlax, the Tapu Lele, and Landorus in its Therian form. River on the right using Gothitelle, Manectric, Tapu Fini, Celesteela, Snorlax, and Persian Alolan.
Yeah, so I think we were also talking about how we hadn't seen any Manectric yet, and so we're about to see that too. I feel like we just had to pick this match to sort of reverse everything we discussed in the analysis. I think if there were a way to break Snorlax, I think Quinn probably has enough offense to do it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, look at that team. 2 Tapus, 2 of the most hard-hitting Tapus.
Yeah.
I mean, Tapu Koko, of course, with that Electric Train, and Tapu Lele boosted by the Psychic Train as well.
Yeah, so the 2 Tapus that actually are able to sort of use their terrain for special boosted attacks. I think also the Charizard is always kind of a scary thing to see because it can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and Celesteal over on the other side. We have seen a lot of drop. We see a huge drop in Celesteal usage because Charizard is just one of the best megas because it has so much damage output. And one of the reasons why Celesteal was so good in 2017 was just that there wasn't anything that could really break Celesteal besides that Tapu Koko.
Yeah.
But, here we have Charizard just able to, right off the bat, fire off Heat Waves, Flamethrowers, even overheats in those Celesteals.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what the game plans are going into this. I think it's definitely possible for Quinn to just sort of out-damage River if River's not careful.
Yeah, you're just going to have to be able to break River's defenses. Don't allow River to have control of the board. You're going to have to try to position yourself and pick up some KOs right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here we go now, jumping into Round 5 here at the Portland Regional Championships. Quinn Johnston versus River Davis, both players ready to send out their Pokemon. Again, River Davis, Hayden Smart money to win the championship, take the whole thing home.
Yeah,
and here they are.
I hope I didn't curse him. Well, we'll see.
Well, I mean, he's 4-0, so I don't think the commentator's curse that you believe in is real. And here we go. River going to lead with Manectric and Tapu Fini here. Manectric, of course, can Mega Evolve and get that Intimidate ability and also kind of switch in and out with that Volt Switch to recycle that Intimidate. Tapu Lele and Tapu Koko are the Pokemon that Quinn decides to lead with. It looks like Tapu Koko is going to go ahead and set its terrain as Tapu Lele's Psychic Surge will follow suit, and then Tapu Fini will be able to get the last laugh and set up that Misty terrain right there. So pretty much we just determined the speed orders of all these Tapu Pokemon.
Every Pokemon on the field.
Yeah. Well, not that Manectric just yet, but it's going to be pretty fast.
I think it's usually a safe assumption that those Manectrics are going to be faster than Tapu Kokos, but I suppose we don't know for sure yet. So yeah, I think as many Tapus as possible on the field to start off with.
Where's Bulu at? He's missing out on this party.
Poor Tapu Bulu. But I think this is an interesting sort of way of addressing damage potential. Like, River clearly called the Tapu Koko lead, and he has the Manectric Fini positioning, which is always really strong, but especially when you're now protecting your Tapu Fini from any electric damage. And the Tapu Fini might be able to find a way to do some good damage to these really otherwise offensively threatening teams.
Manectric protects itself here from Tapu Koko's Dazzling Gleam. No Mega Evolution just yet, and a critical hit on that Tapu Fini, doing a lot more than River probably would have hoped for, as Tapu Fini actually using Muddy Water as Tapu Lele avoids the attack. So Tapu Lele actually not going to go for an attack just yet, so that's interesting to note. That's something to note. Actually, I missed, Tapu Lele just hit into the Manectric Protect.
Yeah, so I guess River sort of missing out on a lot of the luck-based factors of that turn, but he got the read, so he's still in a perfectly fine position. Like, if that Moonblast had gone into Fini, this would have been a very different story. So, like, it's frustrating for him to miss the Muddy Water, but he should still be in an okay spot going into this next turn.
Yeah, and, Manectric hasn't Mega Evolved just yet, trying to scout out what Quinn was actually going to do that turn right there. So, Manectric Mega Evolving would give it a very good speed boost and also allows you to Volt Switch out, maybe hit into that Tapu Lele and get another Pokemon in.
Yeah, I think you just have to make the call of, like, what if Tapu Koko goes for the electric move? And so I think that was sort of some of the reasoning behind the Protect play is just let's preserve Lightning Rod for another turn or two so that this Tapu Koko can't threaten my Tapu Fini.
Oh, yeah, that's right as well. Manectric does have that, Lightning Rod ability before it does Mega Evolve. Snorlax is going to go ahead and switch in for that Tapu Koko right there. Tapu Koko not really in that great a position with that Manectric over on the other side of the field, but looks like Mega Manectric is going to make an appearance at the right time here because it's going to go ahead and intimidate that Snorlax. So that's going to be big Intimidate to kind of mitigate the amount of damage that Snorlax can do right off of the bat here and also allow you to Volt Switch. Manectric just goes for an Overheat instead of going for an electric attack into that Snorlax slot. Of course, Tapu Koko resists electric attack, so just trying to get some damage onto that Tapu Koko. Tapu Lele now using its Moonblast does a lot of damage to that Manectric as Manectric barely hangs on, and here comes a Muddy Water from that Tapu Fini going to land both into Snorlax and that Tapu Lele.
Yeah, so I think that made a lot of sense. River just said, well, I don't need Lightning Rod if Koko just faints, and so he Mega Evolved and went for the KO. But it didn't work out quite so well because Quinn had that clever switch into Snorlax. And now the Manectric's sitting there without very much offensive pressure. Although I suppose it doesn't have much to begin with against Snorlax Tapu Lele.
Yeah, you're just going to have to Volt Switch out, maybe preserve for later. But Manectric using Snarl instead. Going to drop Tapu Lele's special attack set by one stage. Snorlax did get an accuracy drop the turn before, so now its attacks may not be able to connect onto the Manectric or that Tapu Fini as Snorlax eats away at its Ayapapa Berry to heal back 50%. Tapu Lele using Moonblast here, going to connect onto that Tapu Fini, just going to try to get the KO right now as Tapu Fini uses Muddy Water, going to connect again both on Tapu Lele and that Snorlax. Going to do decent damage. Tapu Lele barely hangs on, and another accuracy drop on that Snorlax. And an accuracy drop on that Tapu Lele as well. Snorlax using Frustration. It does connects on that Tapu Fini, and that is not enough to get the KO, and Tapu Fini barely hangs on.
Yeah, so not getting the special attack drop was really helpful for the Fini. Otherwise, the Lele would still be in a pretty threatening position. So I think now River's in a nice spot where like the Manectric's fast enough that it can just clean up the Lele, even though it's -2 special attack. And then the Fini hanging on means it does get to get off one last Muddy Water if it wants to, or maybe like switch out to Preserve Terrain later.
Yep, Tapu Lele going to be preserved by Quinn here, realizing that, Tapu Lele might be able to come back in later in stronger position once that Mega Manectric is dealt with, as Tapu Koko actually comes right back, going to bring the Electric Surge. That is going to boost Mega Manectric's moves if it goes for a Volt Switch, as Tapu Fini switches out. Gothitelle comes right in, going to use that Shadow Attack ability to trap both Tapu Koko and that Snorlax, as Manectric goes for a Volt Switch, hits in that Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko hangs on thanks to that Overheat special attack drop from earlier. But, Tapu Koko does have access to Volt Switch if Tapu Koko feels like it needs to leave the field, as Tapu Fini comes right back out.
Yeah, so I think River was maybe, I suppose Quinn was trying to sort of sacrifice the Tapu Koko into maybe the Muddy Water. And then it seems like this turn didn't play out exactly how either player was expecting.
Snorlax going to go ahead and recycle, going to find that Ayapapa Berry to heal back once it drops below 50% yet again. So heavily damaged Tapu Koko and heavily damaged Tapu Fini out on the field right now.
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot to sort of decipher from the last turn. I guess like sort of the advantage of Volt Switch being like, oh wow, we're just going to go straight into the next turn.
Yep, Tapu Koko going to use Dazzling Gleam, going to get the KO on that Tapu Fini and chip away at the Gothitelle. Gothitelle is a pretty Pokemon, as Gothitelle reveals Taunt, going to try to prevent Snorlax from being able to set up. So a cool tech move right there, and Snorlax can't use Belly Drum because of that Taunt.
Yeah, so definitely some intelligent switching to get that Gothitelle in right when it was most needed. And I think there was a lot of thinking that went into what I was trying to say earlier was the Fini coming in, just sort of preventing that Gigavolt threatening any like huge damage on the Gothitelle because the Electric Terrain was no longer up.
As Snorlax comes in now for Riverside here, Snorlax on Riverside can set up, while Quinn's cannot.
Yeah, so I think River's in prime position now to start a setup, but I suppose there's still the Gigavolt we'll have to worry about.
And here comes Tapu Koko, going to go with that Gigavolt Havoc. It is going to do great damage here. Not boosted by that Electric Terrain because River reset it, as you have mentioned, but this is still going to do a lot of damage to either Pokemon on Riverside here as it goes ahead and connects with that Gothitelle. Going to try to break that Shadow Attack right there to allow Quinn to be able to switch freely, as Gothitelle takes a lot of damage, but hangs on, and here comes the Frustration, and it does get the KO on Gothitelle, so that's going to be a big knockout right there from Quinn to be able to shut down Gothitelle, as Snorlax over on Riverside is freely able to set up a Belly Drum.
Wow, so I think like the Gigavolt just falling short of maybe activating a berry on the Gothitelle, and so River's got to be a little frustrated there. Like if it had just done a little more damage, the Gothitelle would have been just fine.
Oh yeah, I mean that's always unfortunate to see. A Pokemon so close to activating its berry and then just getting it KO'd instead.
Yeah, that's sort of the risk you take when you run the 50% berries instead of the 25%.
Mega Manectric going to hit back the field, going to use its Intimidate ability to again drop Snorlax's attack to remove the amount of damage. Yeah. And it can't set up because of the taunt from Gothitelle just a couple turns ago.
Yeah, so there's still hope for River here. I think having the +6 Snorlax, it would have been ideal for that -1 Frustration to not quite KO Gothitelle and then to have the Trick Room and the Belly Drum set up. But there's still, it's not looking great for River, but maybe Snorlax, if there's ever a Pokemon that could pull off like a 1/4 sweep, it's definitely Snorlax.
Especially after it's already set up that Belly Drum. Mega Manectric is going to be able to outspeed that Tapu Koko, I believe, and be able to possibly get the KO since its special attack stat has been reset, as Tapu Lele is going to take the field. Going to change the terrain into the Psychic Terrain here. Going to try to boost it for later on, as Manectric going to use Protect. Not going to want to take damage and get KO'd just yet, as Tapu Koko goes for a Dazzling Gleam. Going to hit into that Manectric, Protect, and hit into the Snorlax, but Snorlax can be invested in a lot of bulk, as Snorlax goes for Frustration. Going to land into what was that Snorlax slot, but it is going to be the Tapu Lele that gets KO'd. All 14 damage from that Belly Drum Snorlax.
Yeah. So I think now, I don't know. I think that the Protect made a lot of sense from the Manectric, just because of like the potential for the Snorlax to just pick up that KO, and then if River does go down to one Pokemon, then he's in a lot of trouble. But I think it's frustrating to see that he didn't quite take 2 KOs there when it definitely was an option. So Quinn sort of winning the prediction right there fairly impressively.
Charizard takes the field here. Charizard does not enjoy facing off against that Mega Manectric on the other side. It is going to be, Manectric can target it down with a Volt Switch. It shouldn't KO because Volt Switch just doesn't have enough damage output.
Yeah, I think River just is kind of on his last legs here in terms of damage output, and so he might not be able to get the KOs before Quinn can do enough damage to that Snorlax to get rid of it.
Charizard is going to Mega Evolve. It is going to be the Charizard Y. Bringing out the Drought, going to go ahead and boost its Fire-type attacks as Charizard using Protect, not wanting to get KO'd or take any unnecessary damage here. As Manectric using Snarl, going to try to allow Snorlax to stay on the field a lot longer. Connects with that Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko does not get KO'd from it, but it is going to get a special attack drop as Tapu Koko uses Dazzling Lead. Gets the KO on that Mega Manectric. Does a little bit more chip damage to that Snorlax there. This would be either a good turn to go for, well, goes for the Frustration into the Charizard Protect, though. So that's so unfortunate to see if you're River.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see from the way Quinn's been playing the last couple of turns. It seems like he's been really trying to get River to KO, like, the Koko and the Lele so that the Charizard and the Snorlax are on the field together, just like sort of the full HP threatening Pokemon. And he didn't quite get that, but it was enough where if River didn't take those KOs, he was still going to lose.
Tapu Koko is going to Volt Switch out, going to be able to switch the Snorlax right back in, but that's risky because you can easily just take a max Frustration after that Belly Drum as Charizard using Flamethrower. Burn would be pretty big here if you're Quinn just to ensure that Snorlax cannot get the kill, but that already does so much damage, and here comes the Frustration in that Charizard. Does so much damage and gets the KO, so right there, Quinn being able to reset his Tapu Koko is also going to be huge, too.
So I think this is just a simple Thunderbolt to clean off the game.
Yeah.
Some important things to note are, I guess, like, Quinn's Snorlax seems to have outsped River's every time. It might just be a speed tie, but that might be something to note in the future for, like, which side really wants Trick Room. It's tough to know how River should adjust in this situation because it seemed like that Gothitelle KO might have easily been a roll, and if that Trick Room had gone up, if that Gothitelle had been still around, then this match would have been totally different.
Yeah, River would have had so much momentum with that Snorlax under Trick Room to be able to sweep, go for a KO each turn with that Snorlax. So, you kind of, at that point, River actually hoped for a higher roll.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how exactly River will adjust. Like maybe the Manectric wasn't the right approach, but it's really hard to tell. I think Quinn could just kind of keep going with the same thing he's been doing. Clearly he has enough damage output, but if he wanted to adjust and sort of like anticipate how River would sort of adapt and say, oh, that Snorlax really did almost cause me a lot of trouble. Maybe I can bring something else. Like that would certainly be a reasonable adjustment.
All right, now both players getting ready to jump into game 2 here. Quinn Johnston is currently up 1-0 versus River Davis. Quinn Johnston 1 win away from moving on to 5-0. River, of course, trying to fight right back. He definitely had the right pieces. He definitely could have, if one thing just swung another way for him, namely that Gothitelle, just sticking around for just one more turn, things would have been completely different for River.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's definitely intimidating that Quinn was doing so well against him. Like, it's definitely got to be a little tough to recover and say, okay, you know what? Maybe Gothitelle will get the right rolls this time. Maybe I can win a couple reads before that, too.
Yeah. And, Quinn's team is very offensive. The Z move Tapu Koko, something that I'm not sure how common it is in this format, but very popular back in 2017. It's still doing a lot of damage, but you have to be able to control your terrain. You kind of want to be going for those Gigavolt Havocs in its electric terrain. And, that's one thing that River actually was able to do very well, just control the terrain.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though he only had the one tap to Quinn's 2, he still managed to make it so that I don't think they ever attacked in their own terrain until that last turn of the game.
No. Here we go, game 2 between these two trainers. Manectric and Persian are the Pokemon that River decides to adjust to, as Tapu Lele and Snorlax are the Pokemon that Quinn decides to adjust to. So adjustments from both sides, just slightly, to try to win this game too.
Yeah, so I think I really like this lead from River. It's one of my favorite leads that he has, just because you've got the ability to sort of like lower stats a whole bunch with Parting Shot and Snarl and Intimidate, and then you can sort of bring Gothitelle in to sort of trap things. I feel like Lele's definitely going to cause some trouble there, so I think it's smart of Quinn to keep leading Lele to sort of block the Persian from being an imminent threat.
Yeah, and Lele can heavily damage that Persian. Persian can't actually go for a fake out at all because it'll be blocked by that psychic terrain as well, so Persian foul play can do a lot of damage to Snorlax. It can even taunt it to prevent setup, but at the cost of probably trading your Persian.
Yeah, so I think I'm not sure if River has a way to sort of reliably prevent the belly drum if Quinn went for it.
Here we go. Mega Manectric is going to take the field. It is going to go ahead and right off the bat go for an Intimidate onto that Snorlax. Going to drop its attack stat by 1 stage here. Not going to matter on that Tapu Lele. Manectric using Volt Switch. Going to save that Intimidate for later as well. Going to land in that Tapu Lele slot. Gothitelle could possibly come in right here to trap the Snorlax at -1. And also, I guess, trap the Tapu Lele as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like River's actually taking some time to think about what Pokemon to send in is best here.
Yeah, because I think anything that comes here could take a lot of damage in theory.
Oh, yeah. Gothitelle comes right in. It is going to use that Shadow Tag ability to trap all the Pokemon. As Persian uses Parting Shot here, that's going to be pretty big. Going to drop the stats over on Tapu Lele. Going to try to mitigate the amount of damage that, can be dealt on a River side. And again, it goes back to what you're saying about River wanting to control the board, and that's what he's doing this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that lead with so much switching potential into Shadow Tag is just a really cool idea. But I think it's going to be really scary, because if the Snorlax belly drums here, then River's in trouble.
Tapu Lele using Moonblast here. Going to connect onto the Gothitelle. Going to try to chip away at it, but that Parting Shot does so much because Gothitelle doesn't take that much. And here we go, the frustration on that Gothitelle. Bring it down to a little under 40%. A Moonblast should be able to activate that berry.
Yeah, although it'll be close. It might just get the KO. So I think that's like why River was thinking so hard about that turn, is if Gothitelle comes in and takes 2 attacks, then things get a little iffy. I think we're back to sort of that same position of a damage roll could decide this game.
Oh boy, here comes the Moonblast. Is it going to be enough to KO that Gothitelle, or is it going to hang on? Gothitelle takes damage. It hangs on and eats the berry. So huge survival rate there from the Gothitelle. To not get KO'd. There you go. Eats its Wiki Berry as Snorlax using Frustration. Going to double tap into that slot. Gothitelle hangs on easily as the Snorlax over on Riverside goes for a belly jump. And here comes the Trick Room, which could be pretty big. River Snorlax actually did not go before the Snorlax on Quinn's side. So this could be pretty big here as to how these Snorlaxes move under Trick Room. And Gothitelle does finally get up what it needs to do. Gets up that Trick Room.
Yeah, so I think it's 2 or 3 turns now that the Snorlax has moved after. So, like, it's not impossible that they still speed tie and River's just been having odd luck, but I think River could maybe start to count on, okay, my Snorlax is slower, I want Trick Room up.
Yeah, and Gothitelle using Protect, going to try to draw any attacks away and allow Gothitelle to stay on the field for the next turn. Snorlax using Frustration, it is going to land into that Gothitelle Protect as Snorlax on Riverside actually goes for the Frustration onto the Snorlax on Quinn's side. And again, that Snorlax actually moves, so that is actually a speed tie, I believe. Tapu Lele using Moonblast into that Gothitelle Protect, so that was such a big Protect right there to draw away 2 attacks.
And that's so interesting, because you'd think that maybe Snorlax is the scary piece, but I guess Quinn really just wants to get rid of the Shadow Tag.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to switch, but again, this Snorlax is already set up under Trick Room. This is where Snorlax wants to be. Tapu Koko is going to hit the field, going to change that terrain into the electric terrain, but I don't know how much longer Quinn's Pokemon will actually be out on the field.
Yeah, so I think this is sort of how Game 1 could have potentially gone if River's Gothitelle had survived. And so it's just sort of like the flip side of like those roles where both times it's just been, can Gothitelle survive? I think it's of note, though, now that we've confirmed the speed tie, that like maybe Quinn on the turn that he doubled the Gothitelle could have instead belly jumped with his Snorlax, and then sort of the game would have been decided on a speed tie.
Yeah.
Of like which Snorlax gets to attack before the other one.
Who doesn't love those 50-50 speed ties between the two of the slowest Pokemon in the game when you try to make them your Trick Room counter or Trick Room sweeper, depending on how you look at it, really. Tapu Koko is going to protect as Persian going to hit the field here. It is going to be able to go for a fake out to allow River a lot more offensive momentum here. As Tapu Lele goes for the Moonblast, it is going to land into that Persian, but a lot of Persians are bulky. Should be able to survive here. No, actually, it is not. That is a very hard-hitting Tapu Lele.
Yeah, some pretty strong Moonblast coming out there.
Yeah. Usually you'd expect Persians to be able to survive that since it's a pretty common move that it needs to survive. Any fairy type attack, really. Gothitelle going to come right back out. Again, another way to keep that Shadow Tag around is just sacrifice a Pokemon and get Gothitelle right back in.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. River and Quinn seem to think that this low HP Gothitelle is really important for this match. And I haven't quite seen what it's going to do in this situation. So I think this is really interesting that like Goth is still the target every turn.
And Goth is still protecting as Snorlax goes for a Frustration. It is going to connect on that Tapu Koko. Easily gets the one-hit KO with a critical hit. Just gravy on top of that. That there was no way that thing was going to survive that attack anyways. And again, another Moonblast in that Gothitelle protects. So, Trick Room, I believe, still has 2 or 1 more turns left. Charizard is going to hit the field. You can protect, but it's going to be pretty hard.
Yeah, so I guess maybe the theory here is just that Gothitelle and Snorlax. Let's see. I think like if you try to damage Snorlax before you damage Gothitelle, like you can just get the heal pulse off, and then Snorlax stays at full HP the whole time. So if River does have heal pulse, maybe that's why they're targeting the Gothitelle. But it's still interesting that every turn that Gothitelle has been able to play defensively and been targeted.
Charizard Mega Evolving right here. Probably has to go for Protect if it wants to survive. Charizard is going to go ahead and activate that Drought ability. At this point, actually, you're just kind of wasting your turns of Sunlight to function later on, but no Protect here at all. Snorlax using Frustration into that Tapu Lele slot. It is another critical hit. Not going to matter again. Again, that is just gravy on top as Gothitelle uses Taunt here into that Charizard slot. Not going to allow it to protect at all as Charizard goes for a Heat Wave. Connects on both Pokemon here. A burn would be huge. Gets the KO on Gothitelle right there. Wow, that barely did anything to that Snorlax at all, and there is no burn as the Twisted Dimensions do return to normal.
Yeah, so I guess this is totally explaining why the Gothitelle was the target first. Like, there's no way to hurt the Snorlax fast enough when it can get Heal Pulse.
Yeah, and here comes the Manectric. It is going to use its Intimidate ability, but not going to matter against this Charizard. But, of course, it outspeeds it and can hit it with a Volt Switch or even a Snarl to allow Snorlax to have more walling power.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty much sealed up for River unless there's some really strong attacks coming out from this Charizard, like getting a double KO or something.
Volt Switch hits into that Charizard. Charizard goes for a Heat Wave, needs like a big critical hit here on both Pokemon, but doesn't get any at all as Snorlax seals the deal with Frustration. Now we're going to Game 3 between Quinn Johnston and River Davis.
Yeah, so this is a really tough Game 3 for either player to figure out because there is this sort of like, will Gothitelle survive the targeting? If Gothitelle does survive and sets up Trick Room, what if both Snorlaxes have Belly Drum up? Like, which one's going to win the speed tie? Is there any way for either player to play better than a speed tie?
Yeah.
And I think it might be, like, maybe Quinn's play is just to say, well, I'm going to try to stop Trick Room by, like, with my combination of attacks, like either the Moonblast, Frustration, Moonblast, or the Gigavolt Frustration. And then maybe if that roll doesn't work out, I'll try to go for a Belly Drum and then sweep and trick in your Trick Room.
And, you know, Quinn spent a lot of time trying to target down that Gothitelle slot and just allowing Snorlax to kind of easily just freely get KOs with that boosted Frustration. So, you know, maybe if Quinn decided to target his moves just a little bit differently, maybe read into those Gothitelle Protects, that could have changed the game as well to do more damage to that Snorlax when you're just wasting your turns at that point.
Yeah, I think that does depend a little bit on the Gothitelle set, though. Like, I think even if you double target Snorlax every turn, if that Gothitelle has Heal Pulse, like, there's no way to like actually hurt the Snorlax. Although at the same time, I guess if Gothitelle's Heal Pulsing, it can't protect. So maybe you like hurt the Snorlax a little bit so that the Gothitelle stops playing defensively and you get rid of it.
It looks like Rivers already actually made his selection. Quinn's still trying to figure out what he needs to do in order to be able to break this Gothitelle Snorlax wall that kind of just stymied him in Game 2. So again, strong adjustments. And again, going back to Game 2, one thing that changed, that Persian with that parting shot.
Yeah.
That did so much work, even though it just dropped the top of Lele by one stage.
Yeah, and it totally changed the course of the rest of the game. That Gothitelle could come in on those really strong Moonblasts. That was like the Persian was KO'd by a Moonblast that was already -1.
Yeah.
And like in the last game when you were talking about that. And so I think just like that Lele would have been doing insane amounts of damage without that parting shot. And so getting that off was essential. We'll see if he's able to do that again.
Here we go now. Game 3 between these two players. Such a tight set between them. Quinn Johnston versus River Davis. Both players are 4-0, trying to move to 5-0 and move one step closer to the top cut here at the Portland Regional Championships. River is going to go ahead and lead with Manectric and Tapu Fini, so another adjustment made by River here. So he made that adjustment real fast. As Porygon 2 and Snorlax are actually the Pokemon that Quinn decides to go with. You know, Trick Room kind of hurt Quinn. Maybe wanted to bring Porygon 2 to maybe reverse Trick Room if that was the case, but now it's prime time for Porygon 2 to set up Trick Room for the Snorlax on Quinn's side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe Quinn realizing in Game 2 that they do speed tie, maybe saying, well, maybe I'll start with the Trick Room. And because if Trick Room goes up, whichever Snorlax has already Belly Drummed is at a huge advantage. And so maybe just saying, River's been starting kind of passively, so I'm going to start as offensively as possible with Trick Room Snorlax.
Tapu Fini switches out, and it looks like River kind of sees what Quinn's going for here. Going to send out his own Snorlax as Manectric Mega Evolving. Going to try to take advantage, maybe get Intimidate in case Quinn didn't actually decide to go for a Belly Drum here, but it looks like it's pretty safe to go for a Trick Room and a Belly Drum if you're Quinn. The Intimidate is going to come out, lands on that Snorlax. Again, might not matter too much because Belly Drum will just maximize your attack stat anyways. Volt Switch doesn't do much damage at all to that Snorlax as it gets to switch out, and now River gets to bring in one more Pokemon, maybe even that Persian. Nope, it's just going to be that Tapu Fini. I was thinking that Persian could come in to possibly provide some fake-out support to maybe try to match Belly Drums. Snorlax on Quinn's side is going to use Belly Drum, and now it looks like Porygon 2 is going to be able to easily set up Trick Room.
Yeah, so that could be maybe an indication that River didn't bring Persian. I think you might expect the Gothitelle in the back if he led them Electric Finny. Maybe he just went back to Game 1's plan. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this turn. I think River's sort of got a plan with what that Tapu Fini can do to sort of address the Belly Drum. Oftentimes, Finis carry some sort of tech for that.
The Haze?
Yeah. I guess there's no way to be vague about that. It's going to go for Haze.
Yeah.
And I think Quinn might still have to target the Snorlax to stop the Belly Drum. And so if River can get this off, then he would be in a pretty solid spot. And I think that's kind of his only possible out to that Belly Drum. And so he's going to have to try to go for that.
And here we go. River has his Snorlax counters out. Snorlax on Riverside switching out. Gothitelle going to come right in as Tapu Fini isn't going to be able to move, or Snorlax going to target it down. Snorlax uses Frustration. Actually lands into that Gothitelle slot. Gets the KO, but now, like you said, Tapu Fini does have access to Haze, and you have to respect that. Porygon 2 using Ice Beam. Going to connect on to the Tapu Fini. No chance of freeze thanks to that Misty Terrain. And Tapu Fini does reveal Haze, so all the stats on the field are now at 0. So
yeah.
Big Haze right there.
So River managing to sort of come back from that really shaky spot, but he lost his Gothitelle, which was so important in previous matches. So it's going to be tough to see what exactly happens. I think it's going to be like Snorlax is matching Belly Drums and trying Speed Ties now.
Well, you also have to remember that if Quinn goes for the Belly Drum, the Haze could easily just take it away as well. So
yeah.
Right now, Snorlax and Porygon 2 are going to have to do a lot of work against the Snorlax. Tapu Fini is going to go ahead and switch out, though, as Manectric hits the field. Going to use its Intimidate ability one more time, mitigating the amount of damage, and maybe River's just trying to play into Quinn's fears of another Haze coming out.
Yeah.
So this might be a big Intimidate to allow Snorlax on Riverside to set up, but no! Quinn actually goes straight for another Belly Drum and sets right back up.
So yeah, I think now we're playing to Speed Ties.
And Snorlax over on Riverside is going to go ahead and match Belly Drums as well, but it's going to come down to who is going to be slower for one turn, because we know it's a speed side.
Yeah, I think if any of the... Yeah, I can't see another way out of this. Like, maybe if there was some crazy tech on one of the Snorlaxes or the Porygon 2, but I suppose that's unlikely. Like, if the Porygon 2 had Ally Switch, like, this would be the right time to pull it out, or, like, if either of the Snorlaxes had Protect. But both of those are pretty rare. And so it looks like it's almost unavoidably a speed tie here.
Who's going to go first? Which Snorlax is going to go first? This is going to be so close. This is actually a big turn for these Snorlaxes right now to see who wins the speed tie.
It's probably game deciding.
Yeah. So here we go. This is going to be so close. Oh, boy. Which one's going to go first? Ooh. Looks like the Snorlax over on Riverside goes first. Going to hit on that Porygon 2 slot, though. Doesn't even get the KO. Snorlax on Quinn's side goes for the Frustration and gets a KO there. So, wow, River hitting into Porygon 2 instead. Porygon 2 using Ice Beam. Going to hit in that Manectric. Slowly chip away at it as Manectric over on Riverside goes for a Volt Switch and actually doesn't even get the KO on Snorlax either. So, wow.
Yeah, so I think River maybe just had to hope for those KOs. Like I said, this was game deciding, but I think it was more game deciding if Quinn gets the wins the speed tie, because if River wins, then he still has to get through both the Pokemon that are in the back. And so I think he just had to hope that the Frustration KO'd the P2 and the Volt Switch KO'd the Snorlax so that he could go down to Manectric Finny versus the last two.
Yeah,
and it just didn't quite work. He didn't do quite enough damage.
Yeah, both Pokemon on Quinn's side just hang on by a thread. That is so big right there for both Pokemon to hang on with just a sliver of health each.
Yeah.
Snorlax now can easily just go for a Frustration to KO its choice. And Porygon 2 can, well, probably recover back up.
Yeah, I think River seems to have lost his chance. He had to get that much higher roll.
Needed those double KOs, but oh boy, that is so unfortunate if you're River. You know, you got the low rolls in, you got the low roll in game 1, got the high roll in, right? Yeah, you got the high roll in game 2, and then you got the low rolls again in game 3 when you're going all offensive.
Yeah.
So that is so unfortunate to see if you're River. But Quinn Johnston played that game 3 exceptionally well.
Yeah, I think that was definitely impressive. The adjustment to bring Porygon 2 Snorlax was just such an intelligent analysis of how the game was playing out that, okay, I need to be the first one to set up the Snorlax. River was in game 2, but now it's going to be me. And I think that was a really excellent adjustment from his part. And it was really difficult from turn 1 for River to have any chance of recovering.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Quinn lost game 2 because of Trick Room coming up. So Quinn kind of loaded his team full of Trick Room counters to try to, deal with that Trick Room a little bit better. But it turned out that Quinn just set up Trick Room and just rolled from there.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that there were still a couple pivotal points in that last game. Like you pointed out that the Finny could stay in and Hayes a second time.
Yeah.
And if River had gone for that and gotten that read, he would have been in an amazing spot because the Snorlax would have been almost knocking itself out for you, or for River, going down to like 79 HP with his belly drum and then not gaining anything from it.
Yeah. And, you know, River kind of thought to himself, I don't think Quinn's going to do it. I don't think Quinn's going to stay in and belly drum. Tapu Fini is just a sitting duck in here, so I'm going to switch it out and try to better position my board. But, you know, Quinn stayed in, went for the belly drum, and that paid off so much in terms of just like board position.
Yeah, and Quinn had to sacrifice a Pokemon even just to get rid of the first belly drum. And so, or sorry, River did. And so it was really difficult for him to adjust at all. He had to like have things go perfectly for him to make up for that Pokemon deficit.
Yeah, and of course, if River actually decided to go for a belly drum that turn with that Tapu Fini on the field as well, and if it went for a Haze, you know, you don't want to negate your own. So River kind of had control there in terms of what was going to happen. River kind of thought maybe belly drum's not going to come up. I'm going to switch out, and I'm going to be safe to belly drum instead. But, you know, Quinn stayed in, and that paid off. Again, the speed ties were also a huge deal in this game as well. You know, the Snorlax just kept flip-flopping as to who's going to move first. You know, this Snorlax is like, I want to go, I want to move. I think it's my turn to move.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting in a best-of-3 because it's so hard to know whether or not it is a speed tie. Like, if you don't see that, one of them moved and then the other one did. Like, it wouldn't be that weird for 3 or 4 times in a row one Snorlax go first, and then you're just stuck with inaccurate information for a pivotal turn. Yeah,
and you never want to you never want to just think to yourself, I'm faster for sure, and then at the last one, I lost that speed tie.
Yeah.
That'd be the most unfortunate one to lose, right? That was an exciting match. Guys, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but when we come back, more here from the 2018 Portland Regional Championships.